I was 10 years old when my father left the house and never returned. It was a hot Sunday afternoon. The air was still, with only the occasional cry of a distant bird breaking the silence. I remember sitting on the front porch, watching my father lace up his worn brown shoes. He seemed distracted, like his mind was far away, even though his body was right there in front of me. "Where are you going, Papa?" I asked, the curiosity of a child spilling over in my voice. He smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile that reached his eyes. "Just going to run an errand, my son. I'll be back soon." I didn't think much of it. My father often left the house for brief errands, sometimes to buy food for the family, sometimes just to clear his head. He was a quiet man, often lost in thought, but I never doubted his love for us. He worked hard, did his best, and made sure we were taken care of. That day felt no different. But as the hours passed and the sun began to set, my mother grew restless. She paced the living room, glancing at the door every few minutes. Her fingers wrung a dishcloth, twisting it tighter with each passing moment. "Have you heard from your father?" she asked, her voice tight, betraying the worry she tried to conceal. "No, Mama," I said. "He said he'd be back soon." Night fell, and still, there was no sign of him. My mother's anxiety became palpable, the air in the house heavy with unspoken fears. By midnight, she had already called several relatives, asking if they'd seen him. Nobody had. She tried to remain calm for us, but I could see the cracks forming in her resolve. Days turned into weeks. The police were called, friends and family helped search, but it was like my father had disappeared into thin air. There were no signs of foul play, no clues as to where he might have gone. He was simply gone. At first, I was confused. How could someone just leave like that? How could my father, the man who always tucked me in at night, simply walk out of the door and never return? Then confusion turned into anger. I was angry at him for leaving us, for breaking our family apart. How could he? Didn't he love us? Didn't he care? But as the months passed, the anger began to fade, replaced by a deep sadness. I missed him. I missed his quiet presence, the way he would ruffle my hair, the way he would hum softly while reading the newspaper. His absence was a hole in my life, one that no one else could fill. It wasn't until years later that I began to understand what might have happened. As I grew older, I learned more about the pressures my father had faced, financial struggles, the weight of providing for the family, the silent battles he fought inside his mind. He had never spoken of them to us, always putting on a brave face, but I could see now that he had been carrying a heavy burden. Sometimes, people leave because they feel they have no other choice. Sometimes, they don't know how to ask for help. My father was one of those people. The day my father left, he didn't just leave our home. He left the life he felt trapped in. Perhaps he thought he was sparing us the weight of his struggles, but in reality, his absence created a different kind of pain. I never saw him again. We never found out what happened to him, but his absence shaped who I became. I learned that sometimes the people we love are fighting battles we know nothing about. I learned that it's important to talk, to share our burdens, even when it feels impossible. And most of all, I learned that it's okay to ask for help. Looking back, I wish I could have told my father that. I wish I could have told him that he didn't have to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders alone. Now, as an adult, I try to be more open with those around me. I check in on my loved ones, not just with casual greetings, but with real conversations. I ask how they're doing, how they're really doing, because I know that sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones who need help the most. My father's disappearance left a scar on my heart, but it also taught me an important lesson. We are all human, and we all need each other. No one should have to carry their burdens alone. And if you're reading this, and you feel like my father did, overwhelmed, trapped, or unsure of how to move forward, please reach out. There is always someone who cares, even if it doesn't feel like it. No one should ever feel like their only option is to walk away. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you.